Hello, students of our College of Information and Technology. So, our first lesson for the second quarter is the earliest period of literature in our subject 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. Okay? So, earlier period of literature, the first period is the classical period. So, that was started in 1200 BCE or the before Common Era to 455 CE or Common Era. Okay, so these periods are spans of time in which literature shared intellectual, linguistic, religious, and artistic influences. Okay, so why it is called classical? So classical refers to the art and architecture of ancient Greece and Rome. So it is also called as Greco-Roman literature. Okay, so before the orchestra or the musical ensemble was first established in the Baroque period. So in the Baroque period, the instrument of the orchestra is not yet standardized. Unlike the classical period, the size of the orchestra increases, and by the end of the classical period, the instrument of the orchestra became standardized. So they have numbers of instrument they use, just like 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons, 2 French horns, 2 trumpets, timpani, and string. Okay. Then, classical period is also called the Golden Age. Okay, so why it is called the Golden Age? It is originated from early Greek and Roman poets who use it to refer to a time when mankind lived in a better time and was pure. So it means that this period is a field of endeavor when great tasks were accomplished. Okay, so it is called the Golden Age also. Okay, so then French literature is considered also under the classical period because it started in 17th century, considered as classical. Okay, as the English literary of 1660 that lasts in 1714. Okay, so what are the some significant literary works in this period? Okay, so first is the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer, Works and Days by Hesiod, and Theogony by Hesiod also. Okay, first is the work, the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. So it is about story of the Greek struggle, okay, of the Queen Helen, rescue the Queen Helen from her Trojan captors. Okay, so the Odyssey takes the fall of the city of Troy. Okay, then as its starting point and crafts a new epic around the struggle of one of those Greek warriors, the hero Odysseus. So the name of the hero is Odysseus. Okay, so if you are familiar with the movie or if you already watched the movie Helen and Troy, so it has something to do with the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. Okay, so next is, who is Homer? So Homer is credited while being the first to write down the epic stories, which is the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the impact of his tales continues to reverberate through Western culture. Okay, so the next work is the Works and Days by Hesiod. So the Work and Days by Hesiod is it is about a life of honest labor, which regards as the source of good. Okay, and attacks idleness, suggesting that both the gods and men hate the ideal. Okay, so that was the Work and Days by Hesiod. Another work of Hesiod is the Theogony. So Theogony, it is one of the ancient Greek generally thought that had been active for 750 to 650 BC or the before Common Era, around the same time with Homer. So the Iliad and the Odyssey and Theogony is halos magkasabay lang sila. Okay, so it is the Theogony is about the presentation of the succession myth of Kronos, how Kronos overthrew Uranus, and how in turned Zeus overthrew Kronos and his fellow Titans, and how Zeus was eventually established the final and permanent ruler of the cosmos. So it means it is about mythology goddess. We are all known before, they have a lot of myths or mythology. Okay, so just like if you already watched the Percy Jackson, so there have a lot of goddess in that movie, like the son of Poseidon, which is first sea or the first Zeus. Okay, and then also Medusa is also there, Kronos, Zeus, Athena. Okay, so it has something to do with the theogony by Hesiod. Okay, then who is Hesiod? Okay, so Hesiod, we are all known, is one of the Greek writer or poet generally thought that have been active between the 750 and 60 BC or the before Common Era. So around the time as Homer. So halos magkasabay lang sila. Okay? Then Homer, okay, so Hesiod is also one of the earliest Greek poets, often called the father of Greek didactic poetry. Okay, two of his complete epics have survived the theogony, and that related the myths of the goddess or gods and the works and days that describe peasant life. Okay, then who are the Greek writers and philosophers during this period? First, we have Gorgias. So Gorgias was a Sicilian philosopher, orator, and rhetorician. When we say Sicilian, so it is a person that is Italian or Italy. Okay, so means Gorgias is an Italian person. Okay, then and when we say orator, means that person with good speaking skills. And of course, rhetorician is like also orator, a person who writes or speaks in an elaborate or exaggerated style to convince or persuade the audience. Okay, so that was Gorgias. Then next is we have Aesop. So Aesop is a legendary Greek fabulist. Okay, that known for numerous short tales about animals that illustrate human virtues and failings. Okay, so when we say fabulist, a person we compose or relate fables. Okay, so they consider also as a liar person. Okay, fabulous person is a liar person daw. Okay, why? So because those person who invent or elaborate and dishonest writing stories, just like yung mga haka-haka, di ba may mga napapanood tayong movie na is not true story. Okay, so base lang sa haka-haka, fiction, mga ganyan. Okay, then when we say fables, okay, so these are composed of many stories about talking animals, which is not real in the real life. Di naman nagsasalita yung aso, pusa, di ba? So that ended with important moral lesson. Just like yung mga binabasa natin ng mga alamat, ganyan, alamat ng pinya, o kaya ang pagungat ang matchin, di ba? So at the end, after you read those short stories, you will get moral lessons. Okay, so that was the specialties of Aesop. Then next is we have Plato. Hindi naman mawawala si Plato, di ba? So was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece, and founder of the Platonist school of thought and the academy of the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. Okay, so we are all known, or we consider that Plato is one of the most important philosopher who ever lived, right? And he is known as the father of the idealism of philosophy in philosophy. Then some of his ideas, or all of his ideas were elitist. with the philosopher King the ideal rule. Okay, so it is one of the best known in Western philosophy. Then of course, di naman mawawala si Socrates. Okay, or yung pinakaguro nila, di ba? So it is among of the most famous figures, okay? So in the world history for his contribution to the development of ancient Greek philosopher, and which provided the foundation for all the Western philosophy. So he is in fact known for being the father of Western philosophy for this reason. Okay, so that was Socrates. Then of course we have Aristotle. So Aristotle, just like Socrates and Plato, he is also one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived, and the first genuine scientist in history. Kaya nga tinatawag siyang was a philosopher and polymath person. When we say polymath kasi, this person is have a level, highest or high level of IQ or thinking. That what we call genius, okay? So, he made pioneering contribution to all fields of philosophy and science and invented the field of formal logic. Okay, so and he identified the various scientific disciplines and explored their relationship to each other. So, if you are asking who are the three Greek writer and philosopher during the Western period or Western literature, we have Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Okay? Then, last is what we call Euripides. No? Euripides is a tragedian of classical Athens along with Aeschylus and Sophocles, and one of the three ancient Greek tragedians for whom any plays have survived in full. So it means when we say tragedian, a person or an actor who is specialized in tragic roles. When we say tragic roles kasi, ito yung mga pinapapanood nating mga movie na yung ending is masaklap, ganyan, o kaya naman yung mga brutal yung pagkamatay, exaggerated, mga ganyan. So, ibig sabihin, si Euripides is specialized in that role. Okay? So, and also Euripides is best known and most influential dramatist, okay, in classical Greek culture of the 90 plays. Okay? Then, one of his most famous strategies which reinvent in Greek myths and probe the darker side of a human person or human nature that includes Medea, the Bacchae, Hippolytus, Alcestis, and the Trojan women. Okay? Okay, as continuation, the medieval period, or it is also called the Middle Ages. Okay, so it is also called as Dark Age. Okay, so why it is called the Middle Ages? Okay, so this is called the Middle Ages because it is the time between the fall of Imperial Rome and the beginning of the early modern Europe. Okay, so the Dark Ages are given in the name because Europe was in disarray. Okay, disarray in comparison to the orderliness of classical antiquity, and life was short and poor during this period. So it is also called the Dark Ages because the life is short and poor. Okay, then what are the some significant literary works that happened in this period? So we have the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, so Beowulf by Thomas Aquinas, and the Dark Ages and the Bards by Martin Luther. Okay, so first is what is the Canterbury Tales? Okay, so Canterbury Tales, it is stories between 29 pilgrims on the way to Saint Becket's shrine, so in Canterbury. So the host proposed that on the way on their way to the St. Thomas Becket Shrine. So each pilgrim was to narrate two tales on their way to Canterbury, and an opposite of that when they return. No, they need to narrate two tales. So that was the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Next is the Beowulf. When we say Beowulf, it is about the protagonist Beowulf. So it is a hero of the Greeks, or the hero of the Geats, comes to the aid of Hrothgar, no, king of the Danes, whose great hall he wrought is flagged by the monster Grendel. Okay, so Beowulf kills Grendel with his bare hands, then killed Grendel's mother with a giant sword that he found in her lair. Okay, so it means that a Beowulf, it is about a hero story, how he defeat the monster Grendel. Okay, then next is the Dark Ages and the Bard. So the Dark Ages and the Bard, it is primarily professional singers when we say bards, okay, and musicians, then poets who were descendants of the ancient Celtic people. Okay, so it is about kings and soldiers' heroic accomplishment during the medieval era. Okay, so it is considered as distinct class and were given hereditary, no, parang namana na ganon, or privilege, or binigyan sila ng pagmamay-ari, especially during the Middle Age. So according to the historians, there were 3 different types of medieval bard. So meron daw 3 classifications of medieval bard, which is the first sang song of praise and victories. So just like what I said, they are professional singers. Okay, so the first song, they've sung because of praises and victories, or yung pagkapanalo nila. The second of a song about the laws of the nation. So what is the rules, what is the law, okay, of the nation. And while the third kind of medieval bard is sung about family histories. So it is more on relatives, members of the family. Okay, so that was the Dark Ages and the bards. And last, the Dream of the Holy Rood. It is the unknown poet beholds a beautiful tree, which is the rood or cross on which Christ died. Okay, so it means that the poem exhibits the Christian beliefs of salvation and the afterlife. Okay, so that was the different literature in the Middle Ages, or the medieval period. So who are the famous authors who have different stories in the medieval period? So first we have Geoffrey Chaucer. So who is Geoffrey Chaucer? So was an English poet and author. So he is also the author of the Canterbury Tales. Okay, so greatest poet of the Middle Ages. Then next we have Saint Thomas Aquinas. So we are all known that Saint Thomas is a prior, or a philosopher, Catholic priest, and doctor of the church. Okay, so the third is Martin Luther. So was a German professor of theology, composer, priest, Augustinian monk, and a seminal figure in the Protestant Reformation. So he is also ordained to the priesthood in 1507 or 1507. So it means that Martin Luther at young age, no, he ordained to be priesthood, no, nasa priesthood na siya. So it means that being a priest or monk, it is one of her want in his life. Okay, so that was the famous authors during this period, or during the classical period. Okay, then next, significant literary genres in this period, we have what we call elegy, religious liturgy, and narrative romance. Okay, so when we say elegy, it is a poem seriously reflect typically a lament for the dead. Okay, so ano nga ba yung mga example ng elegy? di ba sinasabi natin siyang lamented or lament for the dead. So, example nito is yung mga nakikita natin na in memory of, no? Tapos yung name ng namatay, ganon. O kaya, to an athlete dying young, no? It is like, parang alay na tula, ganon, no? O kaya yung, death stands above me, no? Yung mga ganyan. So, yun yung mga tinatawag nating elegy. Then, next significant literary genres in this period is the religious liturgy. So, when we say religious liturgy, ito yung mga worship performed by group of religious, especially sa mga Catholic. Maraming ganito, yung mga rituals nila, no? Ano ba yung mga example nito? For example, yung holy hours, ganyan, Eucharistic adoration, tapos yung mga benediction of the blessed sacrament and the rosary, or yung tinatawag nating, for example, baptism, no, mga ganyan. It is a religious liturgy. O kaya yung dito yung mga kasal, no, yung worship, no, yan mga tinatawag nating religious liturgy. And the last significant literary genres is narrative romance. When we say narrative romance, this is a genre of literature, no, that involves a mysterious adventures or spiritual storyline where the focus of the quest involves bravery and strong values, not always a love interest. So, hindi lang naman siya, pag sinabi nating narrative romance, hindi lang siya about love interest, no? So, syempre pumapasok din dyan yung bravery ng hero. Diba yung mga napapanood natin? Laging may kasamang values, strong values or responsibility. No, nung pagiging hero, and then, syempre may mga quest silang kailangan tapusin, no, para makuha nila yung goal nila. Okay? So, that was the narrative romance. So, that was the different significant literary genres in the medieval period. Okay, so as continuation to the different period, so our next period is the Renaissance period that started in 1485 and lasts in 1660. So why it is called Renaissance period? So Renaissance period was a fervent period of European culture, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. So it is also named Renaissance in the French word translation or rebirth. So the other term for the Renaissance period is the rebirth period. Okay, so it symbolized the beginning of a new era of art. Okay, then rebirthing the classical models of ancient Greek and Rome periods while using the modern techniques. So ito na yung parang muling pagkasilang ng mga different classical models of ancient Greek. Okay, so what are the some significant literary work in this period? So first we have Romeo and Juliet, When I Was Fair and Young, Utopia, and The Fairy Queen. Okay, so first is Romeo and Juliet. So we are all know that Romeo and Juliet is based on the life of two real lovers. So it means it is a true story. Okay, who live in Verona, Italy in 1303, and who died for each other. So William Shakespeare is the author, right? So William Shakespeare is reckoned to have discovering this tragic love story in Arthur Brooks in 1562, and the poem entitled The Tragical History of Romeo and Juliet, and rewrote it as a tragic story. So si William Shakespeare yung nagre-wrote na lang ng Romeo and Juliet. And we are all known that the love story of Romeo and Juliet is forbidden, especially the parents of Juliet. If you know the song of Taylor Swift, The Love Story, so yun yung cover niya, right? Then next is When I Was Fair and Young by Queen Elizabeth I. So siya yung author. So the author is saying that here is how she met many men. Okay, with that being said, all that caused was sadness and great deal of emotions. So, ganun naman talaga, diba? Pag nagmahal ka, makakaranas ka ng sadness, hindi naman laging masaya, diba? There's a lot of emotions. So, it also explains how she was so adored in the poem, no? In all that of this is just full of emotions in the way that he expressed here. Okay, so yun yung para ma-express ni Queen Elizabeth yung feelings daw niya. So ginawa niya yung When I Was Fair and Young. Okay, next is the Utopia. It is by Sir Thomas More. So was the first person to write about utopia. So utopia is a word used to prescribe a perfect imaginary world. So parang there's a perfect world, no? Yung where a lot of beautiful places, ganyan, no? Nag-i-imagine daw yung authors. Then the book image is complex, self-contained community set on an islands in which people share a common culture and way of life. So if all of us share a way of culture or a common culture way of life, so it means there will be a perfect world. Right? So, yun yung pinapahayag dun sa literary work na Utopia ni Sir Thomas More. And of course, the last is the Fairy Queen. So, Fairy Queen is, it serves as knights. So, yun yung mga tinatawag nilang Fairy Queen. No? Yung mga knights. Yung mga tinatawag nating knights sa mga simbahan, ganon. That represents glory and Queen Elizabeth I, no? The first installment of the poem was published in 1590 and the second in 1596. So it community set on an islands in which people share a common culture. What do you call this? Parang ano siya, quest din siya, no? Okay, so yun yung about the Fairy Queen. Okay, so next. So who are the famous authors during this Renaissance period? So of course, William Shakespeare is the author of the Romeo and Juliet. Okay, was an English playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist in this period. Okay, then next is Sir Thomas More. He is known as the Catholic Church as Saint Thomas More. Okay, was an English lawyer, social philosopher, author, statesman, and noted Renaissance humanist. Okay, then Queen Elizabeth I is the author of the When I Was Fair and Young, no? The Queen of England and Ireland from 17th of November 1558 until her death. No, hanggang sa mamatay siya, nagsilbi siyang nangunguna or yun siya yung pinakamay hawak ng England and Ireland. Okay? Then last is Sir Edmund Spenser, the one who wrote the Fairy Queen. He was an English poet, best known for the Fairy Queen, an epic poem and fantastical allegory celebrating the Tudor dynasty and Queen Elizabeth. So under din siya dun sa England that was the main person or ruler is Queen Elizabeth I. Okay? So next period is the Enlightenment period. So syempre in Tagalog pag sinabi nating Enlightenment period, ito yung parang pagkalinaw or kaliwanagan. Okay? So that started in 1660 before Common Era or BCE, and last in 1790. So it is called Enlightenment period because this age was an intellectual and philosophical movement that dominated the world of ideas. So ito na yung mga pagkamulat, no, sa mga different kinds of movement or different kinds of ideas or thinking in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries. Okay, so what are the some significant literary work in this period? So we have All for Love, The Rape of the Lock, Rights of Man, and Elegy Written in Churchyard. Okay, so first is All for Love. So All for Love is the author is John Dryden. Okay, so it is about which is known his best performed play. So most performed play pala yung All for Love. Okay, so it is a tragedy written in blank verse and in attempt on John Dryden's part 2 reinvigorate serious drama that acknowledge imitation of Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra. Okay, and focuses on the last hours of the lives of its hero or heroine. So, about siya doon. So, just like yung kay William Shakespeare na Romeo and Juliet, so meron din siyang tragedy na part. Okay? Then, next is the Rape of the Lock. So, dito naman sa Rape of the Lock, it is written by Alexander Pope. Okay? So, the story focuses on the central character, of course, which is Belinda. So, Belinda, whose lock of hair is cut off at a social gathering. So, parang ganito siya. For example, there will be a party, then nag-attend daw si Belinda. Then, one of the men daw na nandun sa party is pinutol niya yung hair ni Belinda. Either maybe that man is have a feelings to her or obsessed siya kay Belinda, no? Parang ganun yung kwento ng The Rape of the Lock. Okay, then next is The Rights of Man. So, Rights of Man is by Sir Thomas Paine, no? It is about people have an equal and free at birth. Siyempre, pag sinabi nating rights of man, ano ba yung mga karapatan ng tao, di ba? And pinopropose din dito na ni St. Thomas Paine na that politics should be designed and implemented to protect the rights of the people. Okay? Then next, then France itself holds sovereignty and politics authority over French citizens. So, syempre, kung sino yung namamahala sa isang bansa, so, siya rin yung nag-hold ng mga different political authority. And, of course, the rights of men. Okay? So, next is the elegy written in a churchyard. So, the main idea, no, dito sa literary works na to, na ginawa ni ni Thomas Gray, is simple one, no? Very simple. Everybody dies, di ba? Sitting in a graveyard as the sun begins to set the speaker mulls over the fact that death is universal. So it means yung pinaparating lang dito sa literary work na to that death is inevitability. Okay, so it means that mamamatay lahat ng tao. Darating at darating na meron tayong katapusan. Diba? So, elegy written in a churchyard by Sir Thomas More. Okay. Or Sir Thomas Gray, I mean. Okay? So, syempre, the famous authors the famous authors are John Dryden, Alexander Pope, Thomas Paine, Thomas Gray. So, John Dryden is the author of who is the author? The author of the All for Love. Okay, then next is Alexander Pope, the author of the Rape of the Lock, and Rights of Man, the author of this is Thomas Paine, and Thomas Gray is the author of the elegy written in a churchyard. Okay, so who is John Dryden? So it is known as English dramatist and also satirical poet and literary critic, no? So hindi lang siya isang manunulat, so nagkikritik din siya ng different literary in this period. Okay, next is Alexander Pope, no? Recognized as a great formal master and eloquent exposure of the spirits of his age that represents the culture and politics of the Enlightenment. Okay, then next is Sir Thomas Paine. So was an England boom England-born political philosopher and writer who supported revolutionary causes in America and Europe. Okay, then the last is Thomas Gray, best known as the author of the Elegy of the Country Churchyard in 1750, which was I discussed a while ago. Then was the most popular poet of mid-18th century in England. So ganun sila ka-popular during this period. Okay, so the different types of literature during this period that started in 1660 and last in 1790, we have the essay. Syempre, we are all known that essay is a short piece of writing on a particular subject. For example, make an essay about what you read a while ago, no, yung mga ganon. O kaya, write an essay about your understanding on this topic, no? Then, next is the melodrama. Pag sinabi nating melodrama, it is a narrative literature that is designed to exploit audience emotions with simple plots and dramatic performance. So, it means parang sa mga pinapanood natin na telenovela or yung mga parents natin, 'di ba? Minsan nakukuha yung emotions natin. 'Di ba? Pag nakakaiyak, umiiyak ka din, pag nakakatawa, natatawa ka din, no? So ganun yung melodrama. It gets the audience emotions and performance, no? So, yun yung pinakaano niya. Then, letters, we are all known that letters is a written type, printed, used for communication, either sent via email or envelope or messenger, diba? There is a secret, parang may secret conversation, no? Then, fables, we are all known that fables, short story, typically with animals' character, conveying a moral lesson at the end after you read. Okay, so those are the types of literary during this period. Okay, next period is the romantic period. Okay, so it doesn't mean it called romantic, puro love na yung mga nandito sa period na to. Of course, di naman siya puro about love. Okay, so why it is called romantic period? So it originally was applied to the Latin or Roman dialects used in the Roman provinces, okay, especially France, and to the stories written in these dialects. Romantic is a derivative of Roman, no, which was borrowed from the French Roman in the 16th century. Okay, then it emphasized on the individual's expression of emotion. So, kaya tinawag siyang romantic period. And, syempre, imagination kasama din. That departure from the attitudes and forms of classicism and rebellion against established social rules. Kaya tinawag siyang the romantic period. Okay, so what are the significant literary work in this period? So, we have I Wander Lonely as a Cloud. So, this poem is simply about memory and imagination, no? Siyempre, I wonder, nagwa-wonder ka lang, di ba? So, argues connection between experience, imagination, and language. So, it means it is about memory, confuse the bringing the speaker experience of seeing daffodils back to the life of the page through the concentrated power of the imagination. And the other term for this literary work that I Wander Lonely as a Cloud is also called as daffodils. Okay? So, next is Kubla Khan. No? Kubla Khan. So, this poem is simply about choices that a poet needs to make. Choices regarding which mode of creativity to embrace. No? As a person, it is always a matter of choice naman. If what path do we want to explore, no? Kung anong sa parang daan din siya na kailangan mong mamili, which is the right way, no, para maging successful. So parang ganun yung Kubla Khan. Then next is the Song of the Innocence and of Experience. So dito naman pinapakita yung dramatize the naive hopes of and fears of the inform the lives of children and trace their transformation from child to growth into adulthood. So this poem is written from the perspective of children, about seen from an adult perspective. So parang transformation from being a child to adultness, no? Then next is the Matilda. So it is a story about a young woman whose mother died in her childbirth, no? By Mary Shelley. So just Shelley own mother died after her. So ibig sabihin the author is parang nangyari din sa kanya yon once her mother gave childbirth to her, no, namatay din siya, no, and whose relationship with her bereaved father becomes sexually charged as he conflates her with his lost wife, no, while she becomes involved with a handsome poet. So parang nagkaroon din siya ng relationship with her bereaved father, no. So just like father and a lover, no, parang ganun yung Matilda by Mary Shelley. Then syempre the famous authors is William Wordsworth, who wrote the I Wander Lonely as a Cloud, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the Kubla Khan, and William Blake, the Song of the Innocents and of Experience, and Mary Shelley. Okay, so who is William Wordsworth? So William Wordsworth is best known for lyrical ballads, so yun yung pinaka-specialize niya, and friends of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and known for the natural world was established early, and of course the author of the I Wander Lonely as a Cloud, or known as Daffodils. Next is Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So it is known as the English lyrical poet, critic, and also a philosopher. His lyrical ballads written with William Wordsworth, his friend, no, so English Romantic Movement, best known siya in English Romantic Movement and Biographia Literaria, and the most significant work of this that produced in English Romantic period is what we call the Kubla Khan. Okay, then William Blake, known as a poet and a painter, was born in Soho in London. Okay, so known also as being a painter, no, and made books of his poem, which illustrated one of his most famous work in his book called Song of the Innocents and of Experience, of course, no. Then last is Mary Shelley, or the full name is Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Okay, best known for the novelist who wrote the Gothic novel Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, or the what we call Matilda. Okay, so those are the authors and some literary works in this period. Then next is the Victorian period. So why it is called the Victorian period? Because, or the Victorian era, it is empire of British history spanning 63 years reign of Queen Victoria. So pinangalanan siya kay Queen Victoria, no, siya yung namumuno that started in 1837, last in 1901. So the period saw the British Empire grow to become the first global industrial in power, in producing much of the world's coal, no, iron, steel, and textiles, no. So it means this is the reign of Queen Victoria, no. Some of the literature of this era is express the fusion of pure romance and from pure romance to gross realism. Okay, so what are the significant literary work in this period? So we have first the Pickwick Papers. So the Pickwick Papers, it is about being exalt the joys of travel and the pleasures of eating and drinking well, fellowship between men, innocence, benevolence, youthfulness, and romance. So the author is Charles Dickens, that achieves their values by presenting them against rather unpleasant realities. Okay, so Charles Dickens was all known as the English writer and social critic. So he created some of the world best known fictional characters that regarded by many of the greatest novelists in Victorian era. Okay, then another significant literary work is How Do I Love Thee. This is the common significant literary works. If you already read the poem, How Do I Love Thee, the central the poem deals with the speaker's passionate adoration of her beloved with vivid features of her eternal bound by that will keep her connection to her beloved even after death. So if you read the poem kasi, it is about unconditional love din siya until the death daw, no? Mahal pa rin niya, no? So ganun siya. So external bound or eternal bond, no, that keep the authors at saka yung lovers daw niya, no, kahit hanggang sa kamatayan, no, ganun niya kamahal. Then last is the Ulysses. So Ulysses is about adventure, experience, and meaning which makes life worth living, no. Alfred Lord Tennyson, no, was the authors of this, no, adventures unwilling accept setting of old age, longing for one more quest, no, parang gusto niya ulit i-try yung another quest despite of being older in an old age, no. So also wrote this memory for his friend was Arthur Hallam. Okay, so parang inaano niya yung poem na to. So the author of the How Do I Love Thee is Elizabeth Browning. So was an English poet of the Victorian era. So most popular din siyang author sa Victorian period, no, popular also in Britain and United States during her lifetime. Then Lord Alfred Tennyson, no, was known as the leading poet of the Victorian age in England, and by the mid of many century had come to occupy a position similar to that of Alexander Pope in the 18th century. Okay, so next period is the modern period. Okay, so modern period is known as characterized by a self-conscious break with traditional ways of writing in both poetry and prose fiction, no. So it means ito na yung parang modernization, no, pagiging modern ng mga technology, innovation, globalization, scientific inventions, no, yung mga ganyan. So naging huge na, no. So, kaya yung economic at this period is parang medyo parang maganda na yung economic na part dito sa modern period. Okay, so significant literary work, The Road Not Taken. Of course, if you read this literary works, it is about choices in life, no. What are your choices in life? So every decision that we take, it's always a matter of choice, no, just like that. And another significant is and death shall have no dominion. So it means that this literary work is about or is get the reference in the Bible, the resurrections of Jesus Christ, no, and the lack of control that truly has, no. Ibig sabihin, wag mo sasabihin na ikaw ay bata, hindi ka pa mamamatay, no. There will be no control of our death, diba? Sabi nga nila, nasa tiyan ka pa lang ng parent mo or ng mama mo, is meron na tayong hangganan, no, kung hanggang kailan tayo sa mundo. And everything in this world is contemporary. So always remember that, no? And last significant literary work in this period is the Insensibility. So the Insensibility's major themes is about death, suffering, and warfare. The notable themes of this poem. No, then it is about aware of being responsible about death, happily hide under fear and emotions. So the author of The Road Not Taken is Robert Frost, well-known American modernist poet. No, he wrote different poems in ways that were new or different when his writing beginning at the 20th century. Okay, then the author of the Death Shall Have No Dominion is Dylan Thomas. So ayun, a well-known modernist poet who is also a popular writer. So most of his write is unique, no, have a uniqueness and sometimes difficult to understand, but it is about a philosophy of death, no, mga ganyan paniniwala. And of course, Insensibility, the author is Wilfred Owen, no, is regarded by the greatest poet of the First World War, known for his verse about the horrors of trench and gas warfare. So he is also a soldier, no, kaya yung wrote niyang Insensibility, it is about warfare, diba, suffering and death, no, that every person, no, either a soldier or not, no, we need to be take the responsibility, especially in every battle we need to surpass. Okay, next period is what we call the postmodern period, no, that started in 1945 onwards, kaya tinatawag na natin siyang postmodernism. Okay, so it characterized by reliance on narrative techniques such as fragmentation, paradox, and the unreliable narrator. So it is also the fashionable or tinatawag nating contemporary, no. So the culture and the very recent culture, no, which we live amongst, and we are inhabiting the postmodern world, diba? So mga technology, so dyan na tayo nagkakaroon ng mga different techniques and reliance. Okay, so what are the some significant literary works in this period? So we have the Infinite Jest. So Infinite Jest, it is a complex network of interlocking jokes, no, enigmas, satire, and tragedy. So it means is parang full package na siya na poetry or poem. Okay, so the author is David Foster Wallace, no, as an American novelist, short story writer, and essayist who then's work provide a dark, often satirical analysis of American culture. Now, Wallace also the son of the philosophy professor of an English teacher. Kaya naman pala, naging din siyang isang manunulat, no? Okay, so next is The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, no? It is about wealth and technological comforts of modern life. No, there is something profoundly alienating about this new way of experiencing the world. The author is none other than T. Stearns Eliot, North American English poet, playwright, literary critic, and editor also, a leader of the modernist movement in poetry, most notably the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, no, in poetry that started in 1915. And of course, the last significant literary work in this postmodern period is Waiting for Godot, no. The play of this is typically example of theaters that observe and people use the phrase waiting for Godot to describe a situation where they were waiting for something to happen, but it probably never will happen. Okay, so just like ano siya, parang may hinihintay ka, no? Yung pinaka main theme niya is you are waiting for someone who will never come, no? So yun yung pinaka theme niya. And the author is none other than Samuel Beckett, no? Samuel Beckett was an Irish novelist, playwright, short story writer, theater director, poet, and literary translator, and of course the author of the Waiting for Godot. So that's all the earlier period, and that's the end of our first lesson in the 21st century literature of the Philippines and the world for the second quarter. Okay, so that's the first lesson. So there will be 2 more lessons in this quarter. So see you in our next video. I hope you have a great day. God bless you all.